Okay, so hello and welcome to another AutoCAD tutorial. So after launching AutoCAD, you get this window, and to start AutoCAD, either you could go to the start icon, sorry, the new icon, or you could do right click and say new again, and that will launch your templates. So the template I'm interested, or I always work with AutoCAD ISO. I don't use AutoCAD without ISO because AutoCAD is that template is based on metrics, sorry, not metrics, imperial, so it's inches. And this AutoCAD ISO is based on metrics, and this particular template is based on millimeter. So I will select this and say open. And AutoCAD opens up and it says it's drawing one, and the background is black, and to be honest with you, I don't like working with this background with the black, so I prefer white. So if you want to change the background, what you need to do is the quickest way would be right click options, or you could type options in your command line, and this dialog box opens up. The option dialog box under display tab, go to colors, and then color. From black I'll change white, apply and close, apply, okay. Now I also don't like to work on when the grid is on. So to switch on these grids, what you could do is you could come to this place and click onto that icon. That will switch off the grids, and also you could press F7. Now these icons, when they are in white, so the icon symbols are in white, it means it's off. When the icons in symbols are in blue, then it means it's on. Okay. So that's how you first start AutoCAD. So the way AutoCAD works, just quickly, is you have this something called command line, and you interact with the command line. So you'll ask a question, AutoCAD will then give you certain instruction how to use uh, the tools that you have selected. So let's say, for example, we want to draw a line. So right now the command line says type a command. So it's a neutral command, or there's nothing there. And your cursor, if you look at your cursor, it's a cursor which is a square in the middle and it goes across. So I'll talk about the cursor as I go along. So if I want to draw something, say for example a line, I go to a line, AutoCAD command line then says to me line, so that's what I've selected with in bold. Then it says specify the first point. So what it's telling me is where do you want to start your line? So it's telling me select a point. And if you look at the cursor in the middle, I don't have that small square, so this is pointing cursor. So I click somewhere, and then it will ask me, AutoCAD will ask me, what is the next point? So where do you want to stop? So I could click somewhere in here, and I press enter, and that's the line. So the reason I need to press enter is this, because if I click onto a line, I start a point, I finish a point, then AutoCAD still want to continue to draw a line for me. And if you want to stop, what you need to do is either press enter or escape on your keyboard. That will terminate your line command. Okay, so let me just do it one more time. Line. AutoCAD will ask me where do you want to start. So this time I don't want to start anywhere. I want to start at a specific point. So what do I mean? If you look at my cursor, as I come close to this X and Y symbol, and this is called UCS, User Coordinate System, the number for the X value, the one which is highlighted in blue and the one is highlighted in gray, decreases. It comes almost to zero. So that means that point is my 0, 0. That's like my reference point. Yeah. So what do I mean? Let me just explain you. If I actually go to this layout one, and if I delete this, that might make sense. So let's say this is a paper, and it's an A4 size paper. An A4 size paper is 297 in millimeter by 210. So the X value from starting from that point to that point would be 297. And from that point to that point, if I get a ruler, will be 210. So that point becomes my reference point. So I'm measuring everything from that point. So in the same way, that is my digital reference. So that's the point where everything is being calculated. So if I say I want a line, and if you look at my cursor, it says specify the first point, and then there's a number, two numbers, and as I move my cursor, it increases. And it increases based on what? From that point. And as I come close to that point, it decreases. So in this case, what it means is I could actually enter two values. I could say I want to start my line 0 for X. Now, if I want to jump into the Y value, which is grade, and you could see there is grade and it says 151. If I press tab on my keyboard or comma, one of the two, will lock the X value. As you could see, X is locked and now Y is being highlighted, and I could say 0. So what I'm saying is I want this line to start X is 0, Y is 0, and I press enter. The next question is again AutoCAD what is asking me is where do you want to finish this line? So I could say I want to finish this line in terms of the coordinates. I could actually say I want the line to be 500 for X, comma, for Y, I could say just 0. So I draw my first line, there it is, which is 500. So if I could go to linear, press enter, and there you go, that's 500. That's good. All right, so we know how to draw a line. So I could say line starting at 500 for X, for Y 500. So I'm starting at a point 500 by 500, and then I could actually say going this way, using just my cursor, by 500. So I don't have to, so it brings back to that point. So that line is also 500. There you go. That's good. So we know how to draw a line. But I'll come to drawing a line at an angle at later stage. But for now, just let's look at a simple line. Next thing is if I want to draw a circle, same thing. Circle, AutoCAD will ask me, where do you want to start a circle? I could say on the screen where I want to start by clicking somewhere, and then it will ask me what is the diameter, sorry, not the diameter actually, what is the radius of the circle or the diameter. So if I want, I'll enter the value of a radius, or if I type D or if I press here, then you'll ask me what is the diameter of that circle. So I could say the diameter is 250. So diameter means from one quadrant to other quadrant is 250. So now in the same way I could go to circle, and I could say if I want to draw on top of this point, one way I could do is I could say circle, I want to start 500 for X, for Y 500. Remember that point is actually, that specific point is 500 by 500. There you go. And now the radius of that circle is maybe 1000. It's quite huge. Okay, so we know how to draw a circle. We know how to draw a line. Let's look at one more tool. In this case is rectangle. So to draw a rectangle, the same thing. We click onto rectangle. AutoCAD will ask me where do I want to start my rectangle, or it gives me a few options. So we'll see those options in later sessions or later tutorials. But for now, I want to start my rectangle at a specific point. So this point could be at 1000, comma by 1000. And where do I want to end this line? Maybe 50, sorry, rectangle by 50. So it's just a square. Okay, so that square is located exactly 1000 from by X, by 1000 by Y, and then the value of that rectangle is 50 by 50. So if I could do one more, I would say rectangle, and I want to draw a rectangle somewhere here. So the y value is maybe 1000. So, and then now I don't have to type the x value. Yeah, sorry, I don't have to type the y value. So I just said x is by 1000. Maybe I'm making it confusing. So let me start again. Rectangle. I want to start somewhere in here. So I could say x is 1000, comma, y is 0. That's better actually, so that there's no confusion. So for y, I'm not changing. It's going to be 0. Now what is the size of the rectangle? So the rectangle could be 1000, comma, by 500. Okay. Now, sometimes you see an icon with these small arrows, and when you see that, it means there is more than one tools within that icon. So in this case, there's a circle, and there's a different type of circles. It really doesn't matter; they are all similar. The end product will be the same. Say, for example, if you want to use a circle with 2 points, it needs starting point, one quadrant, and then what is the diameter. So we could say the diameter is 1000. Okay. With a rectangle, the same thing, but rectangle has a slightly different tool. It's called polygon. So it's drawing a polygon is all about. It's not actually just necessarily just 5 sides. It could be anything. So there are two types of polygons. And the best way to explain polygons it would be is to actually have two circles. So if I could copy these circles from the center to the center. Okay, so I will choose polygon. The first thing polygon will tell me is polygon. That's good. It says right now the number of sides is 4. So I would say I want maybe 6 sides. And you'll ask me where is the center of the polygon? Interesting. And the reason is, if I actually could do it here. So if I say that's the center, then it will ask me two choices. Not ask me, it gives me two choices. One is inscribed in a circle. So what inscribed means is this polygon is inside a circle. Does it make sense? Okay. It will make sense once I show you on these two circles. So what it means is I said polygon. So I'll be happy with 6. I'll press enter. It will ask me center of the polygon. Let's choose this center. And inscribed. Inscribed means is the polygon will be inside a circle. That's what it means. So if I say I want polygon, I'll be happy with 6. So I press enter and click in here. And then of course, if I choose the circumferences, the outside, and if I click in there, and you could see the polygon. One is inside, one is outside. Of course, in this case, what AutoCAD have done is it has drawn a circle. Of course, that circle is invisible. You cannot see it. That's all. Okay. So if I could just do a quick recap of what we did. I showed you how you could change the background. So by going right click, options, and then of course colors, color, and then you could change that way. I also talked about how you could draw something using these drawing tools. So you always interact with AutoCAD. So if you want a line, you say I want a line, and then you come and say where you want to start the line. By the way, you could also type the command. So if you want a line, you could type line, or you could actually just type L. Doesn't really matter. Press enter. You'll ask you exactly the same thing. Where do you want to start? So I say I want to start here, and then it will ask you where do you want to finish. You could click by using your mouse, or you could type in the precise value of the length of your line. Circle, the same thing. There are different type of circles. You always ask the question by saying I want a circle, or you could type C in your or circle in your command line. Then it will ask you where do you want to start a circle, or a few choices. These choices are exactly what you see in here. Yeah, more or less. And so I say I want to start somewhere, let's say, in fact, I'm going to say I want to start at 0, 0, press enter there, and then it will ask you what's the size of the circle. So I could say maybe 500. Okay. And then of course we saw rectangle. The rectangle is slightly different because it needs two value. It needs the X value and the Y value. So, but the process is exactly the same. So if you say I want a rectangle, you'll ask you where do you want to start a rectangle. So you say I want to start a rectangle maybe somewhere in here, doesn't matter. Or you could say precisely where you want to start. But it needs two value. It needs the X value. So I could say I want 400 for X, comma, for Y, maybe 200. Okay, so that's what we saw. In the next session, we will see how we could use the modify tools. And also in the next session, I'll start talking about what happens if you want to use line, if you want to draw a line at an angle, or why do we need to use polyline? So we will cover in the next session almost everything what you see in here, including maybe hatches and a little bit of some of these icons. Okay.